Welcome to my channel Alien Signal. The observation deck of orbital station KARETH-9 was silent except for the low hum of monitoring systems. Outside the massive panoramic window, the blue-gray world of Doran IV rotated slowly beneath the station. Doran IV was not an ordinary planet. It had 5 times the gravity of Earth. For most known species in the Galactic Union, simply standing on Doran IV would crush bones, rupture organs, and collapse lungs. Even the strongest gravity-adapted species could barely survive there with mechanical assistance. Which was why the station existed. It was built for research. And today, the research team was about to witness something that would shake their understanding of biology across the galaxy. Professor Telrix adjusted the data tablet with his 4 delicate claws. Atmospheric readings stable, he said calmly. Surface gravity confirmed at 5.2 standard units. Beside him, Drive, Vena's large amber eyes blinked slowly. And the human, she asked. Telrix glanced down at the display. Subject is preparing for surface activity. Across the observation screen, the live feed from Doran IV appeared. A lone human stood on the rocky surface. His name was Daniel Carter, a planetary engineer assigned to test equipment designed for high-gravity mining operations. The alien scientists had expected a cautious procedure. Slow movements, heavy support exoskeletons, medical teams ready for emergency extraction. Instead, Carter stretched his arms over his head. Then he bent forward, touching his toes. Vena tilted her head. What is he doing? Telrix checked the translation notes. It appears to be warming up. The room fell silent. Warming up for what? One of the technicians asked. The answer arrived seconds later. Daniel Carter started running. For several moments, no one in the observation chamber spoke. The human moved across the rocky terrain with steady strides. Not slowly, not cautiously, he ran. The gravitational pressure on Doran IV measured over 5 times Earth standard. To the scientists watching, the sight made no sense. Every step should have shattered his joints. His muscles should have torn under the strain. His lungs should have collapsed under the weight pressing against his chest. But Carter continued moving, stride after stride. His boots pounded the ground while the sensors transmitted impossible numbers. Heart rate, elevated, but stable. Muscle strain, high, but manageable. Bone density, well within human limits. Professor Telrix felt a strange tightening in his throat sac. This cannot be correct. Doctor. Vena stared at the data feed. He is accelerating. Down on the surface, Daniel Carter laughed. His voice crackled through the communication channel. Station control, readings coming through okay. Telrix slowly pressed the reply button. Yes, they are coming through. Great, Carter said cheerfully. This gravity's a killer workout. In the observation room, the alien scientists stared at each other. A workout, whispered Vena. Carter slowed briefly, then began jogging uphill toward a ridge. The terrain slope increased. Gravity pulled harder. Even the station's robotic probes struggled on slopes like that. But the human kept running. His breathing grew heavier. Sweat soaked through his suit. Yet his stride never stopped. Within minutes, the entire research station had gathered in the observation chamber. Dozens of alien scientists watched the impossible scene. Carter reached the top of the ridge. Then he raised both arms in the air. Woo, personal record. He checked his wrist monitor. 5 kilometers under 5G. Not bad. Professor Telrix's crest feathers slowly stood on end. He turned to the station's legal liaison officer. Is this allowed? The officer blinked. Allowed. Yes, Telrix said nervously. Is it legal for a species to possess this level of physical capability? The officer hesitated. I do not know. Within the hour, the first formal report was filed. Subject, Human activity on Doran IV. Classification. Biological irregularity. The report contained hundreds of data points. Muscle efficiency, bone density, cardiovascular performance, shock absorption in joints. Every statistic pointed toward the same disturbing conclusion. Humans were not merely surviving 5 times normal gravity. They could exercise in it. The Galactic Union received the report 6 hours later. And the reaction was immediate. Emergency council meetings were scheduled. Scientific committees demanded verification. Military analysts requested threat assessments. Because if humans could run in 5G gravity, then what would they be capable of under normal conditions? 3 days later, Daniel Carter returned to orbital station Kareth-9. The airlock door opened with a hiss. He stepped inside, removing his helmet. "Man," he said with a grin, "that planet is brutal." A group of alien officials waited for him. Telrix stepped forward nervously. "Engineer Carter, we need to ask you several questions." Carter raised an eyebrow. "Sure." Telrix hesitated before speaking. "Why were you running?" Carter blinked. "Exercise." "Yes, but why exercise under such gravity?" Carter shrugged. "Good training." The alien officials exchanged worried glances. The questioning continued for hours. "How long can humans endure 5G gravity?" "With conditioning." "A while," Carter replied. "Are all humans capable of this?" "Not all," Carter admitted. "But a lot of athletes could handle it." The officials looked increasingly alarmed. "And under normal gravity, what is your species capable of?" Carter thought for a moment. "Well, we can sprint pretty fast." "How fast?" "Top runners hit around 40 kilometers per hour." The officials froze. One of them quietly fainted. 2 days later, the Galactic Council issued an official document. Title: Complaint Regarding Human Biological Advantages. The document was nearly 100 pages long. It outlined the Council's concerns in precise legal language. Humans possessed unusually durable bones. They had powerful cardiovascular systems. Their muscles adapted quickly to stress. And their endurance capabilities exceeded most known species. Combined, these traits created what the report described as a potentially unfair biological advantage. The final section contained a request. The Galactic Council formally asked humanity to limit demonstrations of extreme physical capability in multi-species environments. When the message reached Earth, the response was confusion. The United Earth Council reviewed the complaint several times. Finally, the human ambassador asked a simple question. "They're upset because one of us went jogging." "Yes," replied the council translator. The ambassador leaned back in his chair. "You're serious?" "Entirely." Back on orbital station Kareth-9, Daniel Carter read the official complaint on his tablet. He laughed so hard he nearly dropped it. "You're kidding me." Professor Telrix stood nearby, looking embarrassed. "It is a serious matter for many species." Carter wiped his eyes. "You filed a complaint because I went for a run." Telrix hesitated. "Yes." Carter thought for a moment. "Wait until you see the Olympics." Telrix paled. Weeks later, a special demonstration was held. Representatives from 12 alien civilizations gathered in the station's observation deck. They wanted proof. Not a single human, but many. The airlock opened. 10 humans stepped onto the surface of Doran IV. Some were engineers. Others were scientists. 2 were professional athletes. Professor Telrix watched nervously. "What are they doing?" The athletes stretched. One cracked his neck. Another adjusted his shoes. Then, without warning, they started running. Across the rocky plains of a 5-gravity world, 10 humans sprinted. Some laughed. One waved at the camera. Another began racing his teammate uphill. Inside the observation deck, silence filled the room. One alien diplomat whispered a single sentence. This species will conquer the galaxy by accident. When the demonstration ended, the Galactic Council quietly withdrew its complaint. Instead, they issued a revised statement. Humans are to be considered a Class 3 extreme environment species. Which, in diplomatic terms, meant something very simple. Humans were built for places other species feared. High gravity, harsh climates, extreme conditions, where others struggled to survive. Humans thrived. Later that evening, Daniel Carter returned to the observation window. Below him, Doran Ivy rotated slowly in the darkness of space. Professor Telrix approached. "I have a question." Carter nodded. "Shoot." Telrix gestured toward the planet. "If 5G gravity is only exercise for humans, what is difficult for your species?" Carter thought for a moment. Then he smiled. "Honestly, yes. We haven't found it yet." Telrix stared at the planet below. And for the first time in his long scientific career, he realized something. The galaxy had not discovered humanity. Humanity had only just begun exploring the galaxy. And already, they were running. Rocket. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more cinematic science fiction stories.